Admiral Minho pressed his face against the cold glass of the observation deck. The stars looked different tonight. 3 hours ago, they had been alone in the universe. Now massive ships hung in the darkness like sleeping giants. The first contact came at 1437 Earth time. Radio telescopes around the world picked up the same signal. Dr. Sora burst into the command center, her hands shaking as she held the translation device. "Sir, you need to hear this." Her voice was barely a whisper. The message played through the speakers. The voice was cold, mechanical, speaking words that would change everything. "Humans of Earth, we are the Keth Empire. You have exactly 24 hours to surrender your planet. Your species will serve us or die." General Taman laughed. Actually laughed. Serve them? Do they know who they're talking to? But Captain Hana wasn't laughing. She stood at the tactical display, counting the enemy ships. "Sir, there are over 3,000 vessels out there. Each one is bigger than our largest battleship." The Keth had been watching Earth for months. They saw a planet of short-lived creatures who fought among themselves constantly. Humans seemed weak, emotional, and scattered. Their technology was primitive. Their weapons were crude. They had no space fleet worth mentioning. To the Keth, this would be easy. They had conquered 400 worlds in the past century. None had put up real resistance. Why would this little blue planet be different? Commander Gina monitored global communications as the news spread. She expected panic. She expected chaos. Instead, something else happened. Something the Keth computers had not predicted. Every human leader, every president and prime minister, every general and admiral said the same thing. No. Not just no. Hell no. Lieutenant Deho watched the readouts in amazement. "Ma'am, you need to see this. Military bases worldwide are going to full alert. Every nation is sharing their defense codes. They're working together." This had never happened before in human history. But then again, no one had ever threatened to enslave the entire human race before. Dr. Bora ran the psychological profiles of the alien transmissions. "They don't understand us at all," she told Admiral Minho. "They think we'll just give up because they're stronger. They've never met a species that gets more dangerous when cornered." The Keth sent smaller ships to land in major cities. These were supposed to be peaceful demonstrations of power. Land, show off their technology, accept surrender from local leaders. In New York, Captain Junho met the aliens at the landing site. The Keth commander was tall, covered in smooth gray skin, with large black eyes that showed no emotion. "You will tell your leaders to surrender," the alien said in perfect English. Junho looked at the aliens' advanced armor, the energy weapons, the ship that could probably level half the city. Then he smiled. "I've got a better idea. How about you? Get back in your pretty ship and leave our planet alone?" The Keth commander tilted his head. This was not in the conquest manual. Primitive species were supposed to be afraid. "You cannot resist us. We have superior technology, superior numbers. We have conquered worlds across the galaxy." "Yeah?" Shunhyo pulled out his sidearm, an old-fashioned projectile weapon that would barely scratch the alien's armor. "Well, you've never conquered Earth." Similar scenes played out across the planet. In Beijing, Seoul, London, Moscow, Tokyo. Every human delegation gave the same answer. Not today, not ever. The Keth were confused. Their battle computers had calculated a 99.7% chance of immediate surrender. No species had ever chosen to fight when facing impossible odds. That night, Engineer Keong worked in her lab, studying pieces of alien technology that had been recovered from the landing sites. "It's incredible," she told her team. "But it's not magic. It's just physics we haven't figured out yet." Pilot Rian was already planning attack runs with equipment that didn't exist yet. "If we can understand their shields, we can break them. If we can break them, we can hurt them." The Keth deadline passed. Earth's answer was delivered not through diplomacy but through action. Every military base, every space station, every defense satellite powered up and aimed at the enemy fleet. Admiral Minho opened a channel to the Keth command ship. "This is Earth. We received your message. Here's our reply. Come and take it. Keth Emperor, receiving reports from the front lines, experienced something his species had not felt in centuries: uncertainty. His advisors assured him this was just primitive bravado. The humans would break after the first real attack, but deep in the Keith databases, old files from forgotten conquests held warnings about certain types of species, warnings about predators that became more dangerous when threatened, about creatures that preferred death to defeat. The files were ignored. The Keth had forgotten that sometimes the galaxy's most dangerous hunters looked like prey. As the first Keth attack ships moved toward Earth's atmosphere, humanity prepared for war. Not the kind of war the aliens expected, but the kind humans had been perfecting for thousands of years. The kind that turned desperate defense into total victory. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you threatened a species that had survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars by never, ever giving up. The Keth attack began at dawn. Kankor. Major cities disappeared in flashes of blue light. Beijing, London, São Paulo gone in seconds. The aliens broadcasted the destruction live to every screen on Earth, expecting mass surrender. Instead, they got something else entirely. Dr. Sora stood in the ruins of her laboratory, holding pieces of a crashed Keith scout ship. Her building was half destroyed, but she was smiling. "Look at this," she told her assistant Yuna. "Their hull isn't some miracle metal. It's just a really good alloy. We can work with this." Within hours, every scrap of alien wreckage was being studied in underground facilities. The Keth had expected fear and confusion. Instead, they found their technology being reverse-engineered by species they considered barely intelligent. Captain Hana led the first successful counterattack. Her team had modified mining equipment into weapons. The industrial laser that used to cut through rock now sliced through Keth armor like paper. "Target their engines first," she radioed to her squadron. "Without power, they're just expensive metal." The Keth pilots were confused. These primitive craft shouldn't be able to touch. They're advanced fighters. Yet human ships kept coming, wave after wave, each one learning from the last attack. Commander Gina discovered the aliens' first major weakness by accident. During a failed raid on a Keth supply depot, her team's radio equipment malfunctioned. The feedback created a high-pitched noise that made the Keth soldiers collapse in pain. "Their hearing is more sensitive than ours," she reported to General Taman. "We can use that." Soon, every human weapon was equipped with sonic disruptors. The Keth had to choose between protecting their ears and protecting their bodies. They couldn't do both. Lieutenant Deho found the second weakness while studying captured Keth equipment. "Sir, their computers are incredibly advanced, but they're not creative. They can only respond to situations they've been programmed for." This discovery changed everything. Human tactics became deliberately unpredictable. Instead of following military doctrine, they did whatever seemed most illogical. Pilot Rian became famous for his crazy maneuvers. He would fly directly at enemy ships, then change direction at the last second. The Keth computers couldn't calculate what he would do next, because even Ryan didn't know. "The trick," he explained to his wingman, "is to be so stupid that even you don't understand your own plan." The Keth sent reports back to their homeworld that made no sense to their commanders. The humans fight without logic. They sacrifice valuable resources for no strategic gain. They cannot be predicted. Engineer Kyung had turned her small workshop into a weapon factory. Using scavenged alien parts and human ingenuity, she built hybrid devices that did things neither species had thought possible. "This energy cell from their ship," she showed. "Captain Junho, when combined with our electromagnetic coils, creates a pulse that shuts down their shields for about 30 seconds. 30 seconds? Junho grinned. "That's enough time to kill anything." The Keth began to realize they were not fighting a traditional military. They were fighting an entire civilization that had decided to become warriors. Children built bombs in school workshops. Grandmothers served as spotters for artillery strikes. Every human was a potential threat. Dr. Bora's psychological analysis of captured Keth soldiers revealed their greatest weakness: They're not used to improvisation, she told Admiral Minho. Their society is built on hierarchy and following orders. When something unexpected happens, they freeze. This led to the development of chaos tactics. Human forces would do 3 different things at once, each one contradicting the others. The Keth computers would try to analyze all possibilities and end up paralyzed by confusion. Commander Nara turned the subway systems of major cities into underground fortresses. The Keth had orbital superiority, but they couldn't bomb what they couldn't see. Every tunnel became a weapon depot. Every station became a command center. They control the sky, she told her resistance fighters, but we control everything else. The aliens' advanced scanners were useless underground. Their sophisticated weapons couldn't target enemies they couldn't detect. Humans popped out of manholes, fired rockets at Keth patrols, then disappeared. Back into the tunnels, the Keth Emperor received increasingly desperate reports. The humans adapt faster than we can counter them. Every day they become more dangerous. But the Emperor was not worried. His species had conquered 400 worlds. They had weapons that could crack moons. They had shields that could stop any attack. What could one small planet do against the might of the Keth Empire? Captain Hayek proved the answer when he led the first successful boarding action against a Keth cruiser. Using modified construction equipment, his team cut through the hull and fought their way to the bridge. The Keth crew couldn't understand how primitive beings with crude weapons had penetrated their defenses. What they didn't realize was that humans had been fighting in cramped spaces for centuries. Ship corridors were just another battlefield. The difference, Hayek explained as he sat in the captured alien captain's chair, is that you fight to win. We fight to survive. And when you're fighting to survive, you find ways to do impossible things. Within weeks, the impossible became routine. Human pilots flew captured Keth fighters. Human engineers built weapons from alien technology. Human soldiers wore modified Keth armor and carried hybrid weapons. The Keth had expected to face frightened primitives. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that learned, adapted, and improved with every battle. The species they had dismissed as inferior was becoming more dangerous every day. The galaxy's greatest empire was about to learn that sometimes the hunter becomes the hunted. Captain Junho's final mission was supposed to be impossible. His small fighter, built from scavenged Keth parts and human determination, approached the massive enemy flagship. The ship was 3 kilometers long, protected by shields that could stop nuclear weapons. Control, this is Junho. Beginning final approach. His voice was calm over the radio. Admiral Minho watched from the command center. Junho, you don't have to do this. We can find another way. No, sir, they killed my family and soul. They killed millions of our people. Someone has to make them pay. Junho switched off the safety locks on his ship's reactor. Tell my kids I love them. The Keth flagship didn't even bother shooting at the tiny human craft. Their sensors showed it was no threat. Just another primitive ship with primitive weapons. They were wrong. Junho crashed directly into the ship's main reactor. The explosion tore through 15 decks and crippled the entire vessel. As the massive ship broke apart in Earth's orbit, every human fighter pilot saw what one person could accomplish with enough courage. The Keth couldn't understand it. Why would someone throw away their life for such a small tactical advantage? Their computers had no programs for dealing with suicidal tactics. But this was just the beginning. Dr. Sora discovered that Keth prisoners couldn't handle Earth's bacteria. Their immune systems had never faced anything like human germs. Within days, she had weaponized the common cold. It won't kill them, she explained to General Taman, but it will make them too sick to fight. We can take them prisoner instead of having to kill them all. The Keth soldiers began falling ill by the thousands. Their medical technology was advanced, but it was designed for their own diseases. Earth's simple viruses were something completely new. Lieutenant Deho made an even more disturbing discovery. Sir, the sick prisoners are trying to surrender, but their own officers are executing them instead of accepting defeat. This revelation changed how humans saw their enemy. The Keth weren't just conquerors. They were fanatics who would rather than admit they could lose. Commander Gina adapted human tactics accordingly. If they won't surrender, we'll make them run. Her forces began targeting Keth supply lines instead of fighting their main armies. No food, no fuel, no ammunition meant no ability to continue the war. The aliens had never faced an enemy that attacked their logistics. Their previous conquests had been straightforward battles between military forces. Humans fought differently. They attacked everything that kept the Keth war machine running. Engineer Kyung's workshop produced increasingly deadly hybrid weapons. Her latest creation combined Keth energy technology with human explosive chemistry. The result was a bomb that could punch through any shield. The trick, she told her team, is not to fight their technology. Use their technology against them. Soon, every human weapon incorporated captured alien components. Keth energy cells powered human railguns. Alien navigation systems guided human missiles. The invaders' own technology was being turned against them. Pilot Rian led the first attack on a Keth orbital station. His squadron was outnumbered 10-1, but they had something the aliens lacked: the willingness to take insane risks. Remember, he told his pilots, they think logically. We don't use that. The human fighters scattered in all directions, each one following a completely different attack pattern. The Keth defense computers tried to track them all and failed. By the time they figured out what was happening, the station was already exploding. The Keth began sending reports that terrified their high command. The humans fight like they have nothing to lose. They attack when they should retreat. They sacrifice valuable assets for minimal gains. We cannot predict their behavior. But the most disturbing reports came from Keth psychologists studying human prisoners. They do not break under interrogation. Pain makes them angry, not compliant. Fear makes them more dangerous, not less. Captain Hana discovered this during her own captivity. When Keth interrogators tried to torture information from her, she used their own equipment to escape. The aliens had never met prisoners who saw captivity as just another battle to win. The problem with you, she told her captors as she shot her way out of their detention facility, is that you think winning means we stop fighting. For us, fighting is just getting started. Dr. Bora's analysis of Keth psychology revealed why humans were so effective. Their entire society is based on hierarchy and overwhelming force. They've never learned to fight desperate enemies because they've never let anyone become desperate before. This insight led to new tactical doctrines. Human forces deliberately put themselves in hopeless situations, then fought their way out. The Keth couldn't understand an enemy that became stronger when cornered. Commander Nara's underground resistance had grown into an army. Every major city had hidden bases. Every human civilian was a potential spy or saboteur. The Keth controlled the surface, but they lived in constant fear of attack from below. We don't need to defeat their army, she explained to her lieutenants. We just need to make them afraid to leave their ships. The psychological war was as important as the physical one. Keth soldiers began having nightmares about humans hiding in the shadows. Every dark corner could hide an enemy. Every loud noise could be an attack. The Keth Emperor finally realized what his forces were facing. Not just another primitive species, but something far more dangerous. A civilization that had learned to turn desperation into strength. The humans weren't just fighting to win. They were fighting to make sure no one could ever threaten them again. The galaxy's most powerful empire was losing to a species it had dismissed as helpless. And the worst part was the humans were just getting started. Intelligence Officer Yuna couldn't believe what she was seeing on the captured Keth communication terminal. The data files stretched back thousands of years, documenting conquest after conquest across the galaxy. Admiral Minho, you need to see this immediately, she called over the secure channel. The underground command center fell silent as Yuna displayed the alien records on the main screen. Planet after planet, species after species, all marked with the same designation. Pacified and integrated. Dr. Sora read the translation aloud, her voice growing colder with each entry. The Villani of Kepler 442b, population 2.3 billion. Status: extinct. The Zephyrians of Wolf 359, population 890 million. Status: enslaved. The crystalline entities of Proxima Centauri, population unknown. Status: harvested for materials. General Taman slammed his fist on the table. How many species have they destroyed? Captain Hana ran the calculations. According to these records, over 4,000 civilizations in the past 2 millennia. Some fought back. None survived as free peoples. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then Admiral Minho spoke the words that changed everything. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for everyone they've ever hurt. Lieutenant Deho discovered something even more disturbing in the Keth military archives. Sir, look at this. They have detailed plans for after Earth's conquest. They're going to use our solar system as a staging ground for attacks on 3 other developing civilizations. The implications hit everyone at once. Earth wasn't the end goal. It was just another step in an endless campaign of galactic domination. Commander Gina began broadcasting the captured data to every human resistance cell on the planet. People need to know what we're really fighting against. This isn't about territory or resources. This is about the survival of free thought in the galaxy. The revelations transformed human tactics overnight. What had been desperate defense became righteous crusade. Every attack now had a larger purpose: preventing the Keth from doing to others what they had tried to do to Earth. Engineer Kyung's workshops began producing a new type of weapon. Not just tools for fighting the Keth, but technology that could be shared with other oppressed species. If we're going to win this war, she told her team, we need allies. The first breakthrough came when pilot Ryan's squadron intercepted Keth communications from the Kepler system. Hidden in the data stream were desperate messages from survivors of the Villani civilization. They're not all dead, Ryan reported excitedly. There are resistance fighters on dozens of worlds. They've been waiting for someone to show them how to fight back. Dr. Bora analyzed the psychological profiles of various enslaved species. Most of them have been broken by centuries of oppression, but they still remember freedom. They just need to remember how to fight for it. Captain Junho, now recovered from his near-fatal crash, led the first human mission beyond the solar system. His destination, Kepler 442b, former homeworld of the Villani. What he found there shocked even him. The planet's cities were ruins, but in the underground caverns, millions of Villani survivors had been hiding for decades. They were pale, malnourished, and terrified. But they were alive. Who are you? Asked their leader, an elderly Villani named Kethvar. The irony of the name wasn't lost on anyone. We're humans from Earth, Junho replied through his translation device. We're here to teach you how to fight back. The Villani stared at him in disbelief. Fight back? Against the Keth Empire? It's impossible. They're too strong. Junho smiled and pulled out a weapon built from captured Keth technology. That's what they told us too. We proved them wrong. Within weeks, human advisors were training Villani resistance fighters. The underground caverns became weapon factories. The broken survivors began to remember what it felt like to hope. Commander Nara established the first interspecies resistance network. Using captured Keth communication technology, she connected rebel groups across 12 star systems. For the first time in centuries, oppressed peoples could coordinate their efforts. The Keth Empire is vast, she broadcasted to the hidden receivers, but it's also brittle. They've never faced a galaxy-wide rebellion. They don't know how to fight enemies on 1,000 different worlds at the same time. The psychological impact on the Keth was immediate and devastating. Their military commanders began receiving reports of uprisings everywhere. Species that had been docile for generations were suddenly building weapons and attacking Keth installations. Captain Hayok led the assault on the Keth prison world of Terminus 7. The planet held representatives from over 300 enslaved species. Most had been captives so long they had forgotten their own histories. Today you go home, Hayok announced as his forces breached the prison walls. Today you remember what freedom means. The freed prisoners wept when they saw a human. Soldiers fighting alongside Villani warriors, Zephyrian scouts, and dozens of other species. The galaxy's oppressed peoples were uniting for the first time in millennia. Admiral Minho realized the war had fundamentally changed. We're not trying to defeat the Keth Empire anymore. We're trying to replace it with something better. The captured Keth data revealed the Empire's greatest weakness. It had never learned to govern through consent. Every world was held by force. When that force was challenged simultaneously across the galaxy, the Empire began to crack. Intelligence Officer Yuna discovered the final piece of the puzzle in the deepest Keth archives. Sir, their entire government is built around the myth of invincibility. They've told their own people that conquest is natural law. If we can prove they can be beaten, their whole society might collapse. The revelation was stunning. The Keth weren't just military conquerors, they were prisoners of their own propaganda. And propaganda, unlike battleships, could be destroyed with simple truth. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most powerful weapon against tyranny is the idea that tyranny can be defeated. Admiral Suman's fleet surrounded the Keth homeworld like a metal storm. 3,000 human ships supported by vessels from 47 liberated species hung in the darkness around the planet that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The Keth had come to Earth with overwhelming numbers expecting easy victory. Now Earth had returned the favor, but Captain Hyok's broadcast to the planet below wasn't what anyone expected. People of Keth Prime, this is the Galactic Liberation Fleet. Your empire is finished, your military is defeated, but you don't have to die today. On the planet's surface, billions of Keth civilians listened in confusion. Their leaders had told them the war was going well. They had no idea their mighty empire was crumbling across the galaxy. Commander Gina monitored communications from the planet. Sir, they're arguing among themselves. Half want to surrender, half want to fight to the death. Dr. Sora had spent months studying Keth society through captured records. Their entire culture is built on the idea that they're superior to everyone else. Admitting defeat means admitting their whole worldview is wrong. The Keth Emperor made his final broadcast from his palace bunker. His words were filled with rage and disbelief. How can this be? We are the chosen people of the galaxy. We cannot be defeated by inferior species. Lieutenant Deho shook his head as he heard the translation. He still doesn't get it. There are no inferior species, just different ones. The siege of Keth Prime lasted 3 months, not because the humans couldn't break through the planet's defenses, but because they refused to destroy the civilian population. Every day they broadcast messages in the Keth language explaining why the war had to end. Engineer Kyung had developed new weapons that could disable Keth defense systems without killing the operators. We're not here for revenge, she told her team. We're here to stop the cycle. The breakthrough came when Ambassador Yunha, a former translator who had learned to speak perfect Keth, made direct contact with civilian leaders on the planet. We know your government lied to you, she broadcasted. We know they told you other species were animals meant to serve you. But look around the galaxy now. Every world you enslaved is free. Every species you called inferior is fighting alongside us. Slowly, the truth spread through Keth society. Their empire hadn't been bringing order to the galaxy. It had been spreading suffering. Their great military hadn't been protecting civilization. It had been destroying it. The Keth Emperor refused to surrender, even as his palace crumbled around him. But his own generals finally realized the war was hopeless. On a cold morning, they opened the bunker doors and walked out with their hands empty. General Taman met them in the ruins of the capital city. The Keith officers expected execution. Instead, they were offered chairs and cups of coffee. Why aren't you killing us? Asked the former Keth Admiral Zexkol. Because killing you won't bring back the people you murdered, Taman replied. But maybe you can help us make sure this never happens again. The trials took 2 years. Not military tribunals seeking revenge, but truth and reconciliation hearings designed to help the galaxy understand what had gone wrong. Captain Junho, now promoted to admiral, oversaw the dismantling of the Keth war machine. Every weapon of mass destruction was destroyed. Every slave ship was converted into a transport for returning refugees to their homeworlds. The hardest part, he told pilot Ryan, isn't defeating evil. It's making sure it doesn't come back. Dr. Bora's psychological research became the foundation for a new approach to galactic governance. Instead of rule by force, the emerging Galactic Council operated on principles of consent and cooperation. Every species has something to contribute, she explained to the first Interspecies Congress. The Keth were good at organization and technology. The Villani are brilliant artists and philosophers. Humans are good at adapting and fighting. Together, we're stronger than any of us alone. Commander Nara became the first director of Galactic Security, tasked with preventing future empires from rising. Her network of resistance fighters became peacekeepers, monitoring the galaxy for signs of oppression. We're not the galaxy's police, she told her new recruits from dozens of different species. We're its early warning system. Our job is to spot trouble before it becomes unstoppable. The Keth homeworld itself became a symbol of transformation. The former Imperial Palace was converted into a museum documenting the suffering caused by the Empire. Keth children learned about their species' dark history, alongside lessons about cooperation and peaceful coexistence. Intelligence Officer Yuna, now head of the Galactic Information Service, made sure the truth about the war was preserved for future generations. History has to be remembered, she said, or it will repeat itself. The galaxy learned to govern itself through the Galactic Council, where no single species held dominant power. Decisions were made by consensus, not conquest. Disputes were settled through negotiation, not warfare. Admiral Minho, now elderly but still sharp, often reflected on how much had changed. The species that had nearly destroyed Earth were now partners in building a better galaxy. Former enemies worked together to explore new worlds and solve common problems. The day they angered Earth, he would tell visitors to the memorial on Luna. They thought they were starting a conquest. Instead, they started a revolution. They taught us that no one has to accept tyranny. Everyone has the right to fight back, and when free peoples stand together, nothing can defeat them. The galaxy had learned its most important lesson. The most dangerous enemy of oppression isn't the strongest warrior or the smartest general. It's the simple idea that everyone deserves to be free, and that idea, once awakened, could never be destroyed.